I never imagined the day would come when my own son would stand in front of me, eyes cold, arms folded, and tell me he'd chosen his girlfriend over the mother who'd given up everything for him. But there he was, standing in my kitchen, in the same house I mortgaged to pay for his college, telling me it was time I moved on. My heart felt like it cracked right down the middle. I'd always believed he'd take care of me. After all, I'd given him everything: my time, my savings, my trust. I'd cooked his meals, patched his clothes, even co-signed his first car loan. I thought we were a team, a mother and son who'd seen each other through every storm. But the day she walked into his life, everything changed. She was younger, prettier, full of promises he couldn't resist. Suddenly, my son became a stranger. Cold, distant, like I was just another obligation he couldn't wait to shed. That night, as he packed her things in the car, he looked at me and said, "It's time for you to figure things out on your own." What he didn't know was that I already had. Before I tell you how it all unfolded, hit that like button, share where you're watching from, and subscribe so you never miss a story like this. Now, let's dive in. My name is Margaret Reynolds, 68 years old, a retired elementary school teacher who spent her life nurturing young minds and giving every ounce of herself to her family. I believed in loyalty and the promise that love, especially from a son, would never fail me. I was wrong. I had always believed that a mother's love was a gift that never came with strings, but rather with a silent promise that it would be returned in kind. My son, Alex, was my pride and joy. From the day he was born, I poured every bit of my energy and heart into making sure he had the best of everything. I worked extra hours as a teacher to put him through college, even helping him with the down payment on his first home. We were close, closer than most, I'd say. I attended every one of his soccer games, clapped the loudest at his piano recitals, and sat up late into the night when he couldn't sleep. Even after he moved out, he called me every Sunday evening, his voice full of love and gratitude. Those calls meant the world to me. When I retired, Alex insisted I move in with him. "Mom, you've done so much for me," he'd said, his eyes shining with sincerity. "It's time for me to take care of you." I hesitated at first. After all, I'd always been fiercely independent, but he was so insistent, and I wanted to believe he meant it. He made me feel wanted, needed. I let him handle my affairs, bills, appointments, even the small things like groceries. I trusted him completely. When he introduced me to Jenna, his girlfriend, I welcomed her with open arms. She was young, bright, and full of energy, a little spark in his life. At first, she seemed kind, polite, even eager to get to know me. I cooked meals for them, listened to her stories, and tried my best to be the supportive mother-in-law she deserved. But gradually, something shifted. Jenna started complaining about the old lady vibe in the house. She'd roll her eyes when I'd ask to watch my favorite shows or when I offered to make dinner. I caught her whispering to Alex in the kitchen more than once, glancing over her shoulder at me with that look, like I was some burden they were too polite to acknowledge. Alex started pulling away too. He was busier, more distant. Sunday calls stopped, replaced by quick texts that always ended with, "Love you, Mom, but I'm swamped." It hurt, but I told myself it was just a phase. After all, he'd promised to take care of me. I'd sacrificed so much for him: my time, my energy, my savings. When he promised, I believed him. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. It happened on a humid Wednesday evening, the kind that makes Florida's air cling to your skin. I'd made Alex's favorite meal: chicken parmesan, garlic bread, and a small salad just the way he liked. I'd set the table with the good dishes, hoping to create a little moment of family like we used to have. When Alex walked in, he barely glanced at the table. Jenna trailed behind him, scrolling through her phone like she couldn't be bothered to look up. Something in her eyes made me uneasy, a flicker of something I couldn't quite name. "Hey, Mom," Alex said, his tone as casual as if we were strangers at a bus stop. "We need to talk." The words felt heavy, final. I set the serving spoon down and turned to face him. "Of course, honey. What's going on?" Jenna smirked slightly, tucking a strand of her perfect hair behind her ear as if she'd been waiting for this moment. Alex cleared his throat. "Look, Mom, Jenna and I have been talking. This arrangement, it's just not working anymore." My heart sank. "Arrangement? What do you mean?" Jenna chimed in, her voice syrupy sweet but laced with condescension. "It's nothing personal, really. But, well, having you here is kind of cramping our style. We need space. For us. For our relationship." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "I thought, Alex, you promised me. You said you'd take care of me, that I'd always have a place here." His eyes flicked away from mine, unable to meet them. "Yeah, I know, Mom. But things change. We need privacy. You understand, right? Jenna's been really patient, but it's hard for her, you know?" Jenna folded her arms, her nails clicking against her bracelet. "You're a sweet lady, but it's time to let Alex live his life. You've had your time. Now it's ours." Her words sliced through me like a knife. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The walls of that house, the one I'd helped pay for, the one where I'd folded his laundry, cooked his meals, wiped his tears, felt like they were closing in on me. Alex shifted uncomfortably. "We found a place for you, Mom. A small apartment not too far from here. I already talked to the landlord, and Jenna helped me pack a few of your things." I blinked. My things? Like I was some house guest they were eager to get rid of. My mouth went dry. "Alex, please," I whispered. "I've always been here for you. I gave up everything, my retirement, my savings, my time, to help you. How can you do this?" He sighed, his shoulders slumping. "Mom, don't make this harder than it has to be. You'll be fine. And Jenna's right. We need this for us." Jenna's eyes sparkled with victory. She leaned against the counter, her smile so self-satisfied it made my stomach churn. "It's better this way," she said. "You'll be independent, and we'll finally have the life we deserve." I stood there, trembling, the weight of betrayal pressing down like a boulder on my chest. My son, my only child. The boy I'd sacrificed so much for, choosing a stranger's comfort over his own mother's home. I'd trusted him, I'd believed him, and in that moment, I realized I'd been nothing more than an inconvenience. The heartbreak was immediate, and all I could think was, how did it come to this? After that night, everything felt different. My house, once a sanctuary of laughter, late-night movie marathons, and the smell of fresh coffee, now echoed with cold silence. The space between the walls seemed to shrink with every passing day, each corner a reminder of Alex's betrayal. Jenna moved through my home like a queen, her perfume lingering in rooms she had no right to own. The day after the confrontation, I found a half-packed box on my bed. It was filled with my photo albums, a chipped teacup from my mother's china set, and a few scarves I hadn't worn in years. A sticky note, written in Jenna's neat, dismissive handwriting, read, "Start getting ready to move, Jay." My heart dropped. Alex avoided me, retreating to their bedroom with the door shut tight. When I knocked, he'd crack it open just enough to talk, but never invite me in. "Mom, Jenna and I need space to plan. You understand, right?" His voice was mechanical, as if rehearsed. I wanted to shake him, to make him see me, not as a burden, but as the mother who'd stood by him through every scraped knee and broken dream. Bills piled up on the kitchen counter, and Jenna's new designer bag sat next to them like a trophy. My savings had already been depleted from helping Alex with his business. Every financial safety net I'd built over the years felt like it had vanished overnight. Panic gnawed at me. Where would I go? How would I afford rent, groceries, medical bills? The questions piled up like bricks on my chest. One evening, I heard Jenna on the phone. her laughter sharp and cruel. "Yeah, she's still here. I can't wait till she's gone. She's so old-fashioned, you know?" The words hit me like a slap. My hands shook as I stood in the hallway, hearing my own grandson's mother plot to erase me from my own life. Alex didn't even try to hide his indifference. "Mom, Jenna's right," he said over dinner one night, his eyes fixed on his phone. "You're strong. You can handle living on your own. We're young. We need a chance to build our own life." He said it like it was a favor, like he was doing me a kindness by discarding me. The small apartment they'd found for me was in a rundown complex, miles from any bus stop. The rent was barely manageable with my meager pension, but it felt like an exile. I tried to fight it at first, telling myself I'd talk to Alex, remind him of all I'd given him. But every time I tried, Jenna would interrupt, her tone dripping with false concern. "You're just too sensitive, Rose. We're not kicking you out, we're just helping you transition." But I could see through her smiles. I saw the smirk behind her eyes when she glanced at Alex and he looked away. My heart ached with betrayal. I'd spent my life building a home, a family. Now it felt like I was watching it crumble, brick by brick. Nights were the worst. Alone in my room, the house creaked and groaned like it was grieving with me. I'd sit in the dark, clutching the last letter Alex wrote me when he was in college. "Thanks for believing in me, Mom. I couldn't do it without you." I'd held on to those words for years, but now they felt like a cruel joke. Every day, Jenna seemed to take a little more control, changing the Wi-Fi password, moving my belongings, telling me I'd be happier somewhere else. She'd leave open browser tabs for assisted living facilities, real estate listings, and independent living solutions. I'd trusted them, loved them, and now that trust felt like the heaviest burden of all. One morning, after another sleepless night, I stood in front of the mirror in the hallway and barely recognized the woman staring back at me. My once vibrant eyes looked tired, rimmed with worry. My shoulders slumped like they carried the weight of the whole house. And maybe, in a way, they did. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt strong. I'd let them chip away at me, piece by piece, until I felt like a guest in my own life. But that morning, something shifted. I realized that being strong didn't mean I had to carry their burdens. It meant I could set them down. I grabbed my old leather purse, worn but still sturdy, and headed to the local library, the place that had always felt like a second home. The smell of books and the quiet hum of the building calmed my racing heart. I sat at a corner table and flipped open the laptop I'd gotten years ago, determined to find answers. I started with an internet search. Legal rights for parents living with adult children. The words blurred at first, but I kept going. After an hour, I found the name of a local lawyer who specialized in elder rights. Her reviews were glowing, and something about the way people described her, compassionate but fierce, gave me hope. I called her right then, my hands trembling. "Rose," she said when I explained everything. "You have more rights than you think, and you're not alone." She promised to meet me the next day, free of charge. Tears filled my eyes, but they were the good kind, the kind that cleans out the old hurt. That afternoon, I called an old friend from church, Margaret, someone I hadn't seen in months. She answered on the second ring. "Rose, is everything okay?" Her voice was so warm, so full of genuine concern, that it nearly broke me. "Not really," I said, and then the words spilled out, every raw detail. She listened without interrupting. "You come stay with me for a while," she said firmly. "You're family to me. We'll sort this out together." I exhaled, feeling lighter. For the first time in months, I felt like I had options, like I wasn't trapped in Jenna's twisted web. That night, I packed a small bag with essentials. My old photos, the letter Alex wrote from college, and the few things that still made this house feel like mine. I knew there would be a fight ahead. Maybe a legal one, definitely an emotional one. But as I zipped up that bag, I realized that I'd let myself believe I was powerless. I'd let them decide how much space I could take up in my own life, but not anymore. I had a lawyer. I had Margaret. Most importantly, I had myself, and I wasn't giving that up for anyone. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Alex showed up at Margaret's house. The knock on the door was hesitant, almost childlike. I knew that knock. It was the same one he used to use when he was a little boy, scared of thunderstorms. Margaret was in the kitchen making us both tea. I stood up slowly, my heart hammering in my chest. My mind flashed back to that day he'd chosen Jenna over me, how he'd called me manipulative, accused me of guilt-tripping him when all I'd ever done was love him. I opened the door. He stood there, hair damp from the rain, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept in days. Jenna was with him, arms folded, makeup streaked down her cheeks. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking. "Can we talk?" Margaret appeared behind me and gave me a look that said, "This is your moment." I nodded and stepped aside to let them in, but I didn't offer them tea. They sat on the worn floral couch, both looking small, like children who'd been caught in a lie. I stayed standing, arms folded. "What is it you need?" I asked, keeping my tone steady. Alex cleared his throat. "Mom, we're in trouble." His voice trembled. "Jenna lost her job. The rent's past due, and I made some mistakes. I thought we could manage, but..." He looked at Jenna, who was now sniffling dramatically. "We need your help." I took a breath, my mind a swirl of emotions, rage, sadness, love, and a strange, growing calm. "You mean, after you left me to fend for myself? After you called me a burden and let her..." I pointed at Jenna. "Treat me like I was disposable?" My voice didn't shake. It was firm, clear, like the tea kettle's whistle in Margaret's kitchen. Jenna shifted uncomfortably. "We were just trying to build our life," she muttered. "You were... complicated." "Complicated?" I repeated. I felt a bitter laugh rise in my chest. "You mean I was the mother who paid for Alex's college, who co-signed your first car loan, who cooked every meal when you were both too busy chasing your dreams? That's what complicated means to you?" Alex looked down at his hands. "I know I messed up," he whispered. "I thought she was right. I thought I needed to put her first." Margaret moved to stand by my side. Her presence gave me strength. I straightened my spine and took a deep breath. "Alex," I said slowly, "I spent my entire life putting you first. I gave up so much to make sure you never went without. And the first time you had to choose between me and her, you chose her. Not just once, but every time since. I needed you, and you left me behind." Tears streamed down his face now. Jenna was staring at the floor, silent. "We're sorry," he whispered. We didn't know." I sighed, feeling the weight of years of love and betrayal settle in my chest. "You didn't know because you didn't want to know," I said. "And now you're here because you need me again. But I'm not the same woman you left behind. I've learned to stand on my own." "Please," he begged, "just help us get back on our feet. We'll pay you back, I swear." I met his eyes and saw the desperation there, but also the same entitlement that had always been there. I closed my eyes, let the pain wash over me, and then let it go. "I can't," I said, voice calm. "I won't. I love you, Alex, but I won't let you or anyone else use me again." His head dropped like a child caught in a lie. I turned and walked toward the kitchen, leaving them both in the living room, the final proof that I wasn't the one who needed rescuing anymore. As I closed the kitchen door behind me, I felt the weight of the world lift from my shoulders. I stood by the counter, fingers resting on the worn wooden surface where I'd kneaded so many batches of bread, baked birthday cakes, and rolled out Sunday dinners for Alex. The memories were bittersweet, but they were mine. Mine to honor, mine to release. Margaret sat down at the table and poured me a cup of tea, the steam swirling in the late afternoon light. "You did the right thing," she said gently. "You chose yourself this time. That's no small thing." I let her words sink in, and tears pricked my eyes. For so long, I'd been the caretaker, the sacrificer, the one who always put everyone else first, even when it meant erasing myself. I'd believed that's what love was. But love, I was learning, didn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. It didn't mean letting someone walk over you just because you'd taught them to. I thought back to the day Alex left me for Jenna, how he'd packed his things, driven off, and left me standing on the porch with nothing but a trembling heart and a head full of questions. Why wasn't I enough? How could he choose her over me? I'd spent too many nights replaying that moment, trying to find the flaw in myself that made me disposable. But standing here now, with Margaret's steady presence beside me, I realized I wasn't disposable at all. I was just someone who had forgotten to put herself on the list of people she loved. I sipped the tea, the warmth settling my soul. I could hear Alex and Jenna shuffling in the living room, probably packing up their empty excuses to leave. I didn't need to hear them out. I didn't need to justify my choices anymore. They'd made theirs, and now I had made mine. I'd already started to plan for the future. Margaret had introduced me to a local seniors community group that offered classes and social events. I'd signed up for a pottery workshop and a cooking class, things I'd always wanted to do but never had the time. I'd also found a part-time volunteer opportunity at the local library, where I could share my love of books with people who actually wanted to be there. At night, in the quiet of my own home, I felt a different kind of peace, one that came from no longer needing to prove my worth to anyone. I'd let go of the old belief that my value came from being needed. My value came from being me, exactly as I was, with or without Alex's approval. As the days turned into weeks, I found that my laughter came easier, my steps felt lighter. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was free. And that freedom tasted sweeter than any apology or second chance ever could. Margaret finished her tea and gave my hand a squeeze. "You've always been stronger than you thought," she said, "and now you know it too." I nodded, a soft smile touching my lips. "Yeah," I whispered. "Now I know." I glanced out the window at the fading sun, feeling its warmth one last time before it disappeared. A quiet peace settled over me. No more sacrifices that left me empty. No more loving people who couldn't love me back. Just me, strong, proud, and whole. And as I sat there, with the sun setting over my quiet house, I finally understood that the best revenge wasn't getting even. It was moving on, living, thriving, and never again letting anyone else define my worth. What would you do if your own child chose someone else over you, leaving you behind for their own gain? Would you forgive them? Or would you walk away with your head held high, knowing your worth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories and perspectives matter, and they help others feel less alone in their own struggles. If this story touched you, hit that like button, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more powerful, true life stories of family, betrayal, and finding strength again. Let's build a community of support together.